Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog, which I'm afraid is going to be an unhappy one if you are a Trump supporter. I had speculated or wondered in an earlier vlog if Trump could be in trouble because, well, all the polls have been against Trump. All of them have shown him losing to Biden all along. There were 40 polls just in May. Every one of them showed Biden ahead, but I had kind of discounted some of the polls because all the polls, or almost all the polls, were wrong in 2016. But you have to remember that the Democratic candidate in 2016 was Hillary Clinton, so a lot of the voting for Trump was a vote against Hillary Clinton. So there is a question whether there are enough people who dislike Biden as there were people who disliked Hillary Clinton. Also, we are now into the third year of a Trump presidency. So Trump was an unknown quantity. People took a chance on him in 2016. Now we are in 2020. It's been 3 years, and the election will be a referendum on Trump, basically. Now, I have focused on certain polls, such as the Rasmussen poll. I have focused on the betting polls and something called the 13 Keys to the White House, because they have all had excellent records of predicting elections, number one. Number two, they were, in my opinion, because of the way they were conducted and whom they were polling, such as likely voters, that they were more accurate and more honest than a lot of the other polls that are out there. Well, those polls are now turning against Trump, and the betting odds, I'm just going to go through all of them today, just give you an update. Unless something changes, I'll give you the bottom line if you press for time. Unless something changes in the next 5 months, Trump is going to lose. So you just have to prepare yourself for a Biden presidency. I'm going to show you why. Unfortunately, I don't get enough viewers that somebody in the White House is watching this vlog, which is unfortunate. I hope somebody there is, well, I'm sure they are paying attention to this. I don't know what they can do about it because a lot of it boils down to Trump's personality, which he refuses. Well, I mean, he's hardwired for his personality. His tweets, if he would only do just positive tweets, just the positive things that his administration is doing and be optimistic, things would probably be a lot better, even with the press so much against him, which is another problem he has to deal with, and the so-called deep state sabotaging his presidency. All this is coming out now, but it may not be enough to save his presidency. So bear with me while I quote from one particular article, and then I'm going to give you some charts and statistics to buttress what I just told you. So here is the headline: Trump in trouble. The coronavirus has left President Trump without his signature issue, the economy, and without his preferred venue, the tentpole rally. The bump in his approval rating as Americans rallied around the flag at the outset of the crisis is gone. Assessments of Trump's performance during the pandemic look a lot like his approval rating overall, polarized by party and upside down. He continues to trail Joe Biden in both national and, this is important, swing state polls. The margins are narrow, but they are also consistent. President Trump has not been ahead in any live interview national poll conducted this year. Yet, an aura of invincibility surrounds the president. That is why the same polls that show him losing to Biden also show that the public expects him to win. It is why betting markets favor him, or do they? More on that in a moment. It is why betting markets favor him too. After all, the story goes, Trump accomplished the impossible in 2016. He defeated the second most unpopular candidate in American history. He, Trump, was number one against all odds. Why can't he do it again? The president's imagination, ruthlessness, and guile, the shortcomings of his uninspiring and slightly out-of-it opponent, and the Teflon quality of this campaign have lulled the public and the GOP into a sense of complacency. Sure, things look bad, but Trump will find a way out of it. He always does. Well, he doesn't always do, because if you look at his business career, he lost the Plaza Hotel. He lost his casinos. He does not always, and his airline. So he does not always come out ahead. Sorry, he does not always come out ahead. But back to the quotes. Well, maybe not this time. The 2020 election looks more and more like a contest between luck and precedent. On one side is President Trump's incredible run of good fortune. On the other side is the weight of history. Consider, every president reelected since Mr. Gallup's first poll in 1935 enjoyed at least one day, and often several, when his approval rating was above 50%. This is something President Trump has not experienced. Not since 1940 has a president been reelected with a double-digit unemployment rate, nor has a president been reelected with an unemployment rate 2 or more points higher than when he entered office. Unemployment was 15% in April 2020 and is expected to rise for at least a while longer. It was 5% in January 2017. The recovery will need to have the trajectory of an Elon Musk rocket for unemployment to fall to less than 7% by November 3rd. And so America waits for Trump to pull a rabbit out of his hat. What might that look like? A stunning economic rebound would bolster the president's strengths and restore confidence in his stewardship. Trump's opponent might delegitimize himself through continued gaffes, a vice presidential selection that frightens more people than it reassures, and debate performances that heighten concerns about age and ability. Something unexpected might happen. The campaign is young. As a wise man once wrote, only an idiot would bet against Donald Trump. Right now, though, Republicans have every reason to be worried about November. And now I'm going to give you some of those reasons, in addition to the ones I just quoted in this article. So we start with the Rasmussen poll. I don't have Monday's approval rating. I'm recording this on Monday, June 1st. You're seeing it June 2nd, the next day. I'll put it in a subtitle when the approval rating comes out. It was 46% among likely voters. On Friday, it's going to be interesting to see what happens today. But what I do want to show you right now is one of the most accurate predictors has been the betting odds. In other words, people who put actual money, not just their opinions, but dollars and cents down on who they expect to win in November. The betting odds have favored Trump up till now by a substantial margin sometimes, and they still do favor him as I'm recording this today, but the margin is narrowing. You can see it in this chart. You can see how the lines are getting closer and closer between Trump and Biden, but you can also see that the spread is only 2.1 percentage points. So Trump is ahead, but only by a little bit. Now let's look a little closer at the chart at some of these numbers now. You can see, okay, the spread 2.1, but you see from 1, well, just look at the arrows here. You see a tie. You see Trump ahead 5, Trump ahead 8, another tie. And then you see Biden up, Biden up. In other words, you see a narrow margin, and it's 2.1 today, but it was 3.8 just Friday. So, well, you can see from that chart that the spread is narrowing. If it turns the other way, if Biden is favored in the spread, that really shows that Trump is in trouble and very possibly, I would almost say probably, headed for a loss. Which brings us now to the most important it's not a poll, it's a methodology. I talked about this some vlogs ago, many vlogs ago. The 13 keys to the White House. This was put together by a professor at, I believe, American University, Alan Lichtman. He is not a statistician. He is, I believe, a historian. What he has done is he had collaborated with a Russian scientist who came up with a method of predicting earthquakes, and Lichtman wanted to see whether a similar methodology could be used to predict presidential elections. Now, there have been some that made predictions based on economic data, some based on mathematical formulas. Lichtman just looked at history and found common factors that if they went one way, it favored the party in power. If it went the other way, then it disfavored the party in power, meaning the party holding the White House. His theory is, and it's proven pretty accurate, that people don't really care, and this is important, who the candidate is. It doesn't matter that it's Joe Biden and whether he has dementia or whatever. The public makes a general evaluation on whether they think the party in power deserves another 4 years. If the public feels that way, then the party in power gets another 4 years. If they don't feel that way, then the challenger wins and a new party comes into power. So I'm going to run down the 13 keys here, and I'll show you what they're showing to me right now. Now, the way these keys work is Lichtman put together 13 true or false statements. If 5 or fewer are false, then the party in power keeps the White House. If 6 or more are false, then the party in power will lose the next election and will be out of power. Now, the track record of him so far, Lichtman, is 100%. He started with the election of 1860, the first election in which we had a Republican and a Democrat in the race, because the Republican Party had just been formed a few years earlier, 1856, I believe. So that was the first election. So he starts from there, and he used past data to predict elections up to 1982. Then in 1982, he started using his methodology to predict future elections, and he was right every time except for one, and that was a 2000 very close election between Bush and Gore. He did predict, what he really predicts is the winner of the popular vote, and in that sense he was right. He predicted that Gore would win the popular vote and thus the election, but what happened? Well, he did win the popular vote, but Bush won the electoral vote and became president. That's what happened in 2016. That's what most likely would have to happen in 2020. Trump, I would be very surprised if he won the popular vote. So he's going to have to win in the Electoral College. And as that article I quoted you pointed out, he is losing in the swing states. So he has a problem. Now let's go right down the list. Remember, according to Lichtman's methodology, the 13 keys, if any 6 or more are false, then Trump will lose in November. Here we go. Key 1, party mandate. After the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives than it did after the previous midterm elections. That is false. The Republicans lost the House in 2018. Key 2, contest. There is no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. That is true. 3, incumbency. The incumbent party candidate is the sitting president. That's true. 4, third party. There is no significant third party or independent campaign. True. 5, short-term economy. The economy is not in recession during the election campaign. False. So we have our second false, because obviously we're in a recession. Now we go to number 6, long-term economy. Real per capita economic growth during the term equals or exceeds mean growth during the previous 2 terms. That is false. We have to say that is false. Maybe something will change between now and November, but for now, I am counting that as false. Number 7, policy change. The incumbent administration affects major changes in national policy. I'm calling that false. If there's a major change in national policy, I honestly don't know what it is. Number 8, social unrest. There is no sustained social unrest during the term. Well, I'm recording this during a number of riots across the country because of the Floyd killing. So now the question is, what does sustained social unrest mean? So maybe if it's not what Lichtman would consider sustained, maybe this will be true, but for now I'm counting it as a false. And I don't think, well, my understanding of the methodology, it doesn't matter that the unrest is all, well, except for a couple of cases. I might do this in a future vlog. Out of 29 cities, 27 of them are governed by Democrats. Actually, the one of the 2 is governed by an independent who seems very liberal to me from her record, and the lone Republican is in California, so probably a liberal Republican for what that's worth. But back to the list. Number 9, scandal. The incumbent administration is untainted by major scandal. Now, as we sit here, it is turning out that these scandals that were supposed to be Trump scandals are turning out to be Democratic Party scandals. So I guess there would be a question of whether Trump is tainted by the scandals. And remember that he was impeached and put on trial for removal from office. So I have to count that for now as a false. Number 10, foreign military failure. The incumbent administration suffers no major failure in foreign or military affairs. So I'm counting that as true. Number 11, foreign military success. The incumbent administration achieves a major success in foreign or military affairs. I have to count that as a false, because bringing troops out of Syria, I don't consider that, or out of Afghanistan, I don't consider that a major success in foreign or military affairs. Number 12, incumbent charisma. Now, what does incumbent charisma mean? To Lichtman, to his methodology, that means popularity across the political spectrum. Yes, Trump is popular with Republicans, but obviously not with Democrats, and I would say not that popular with independents. So I would have to call that a false. As far as across the board charisma, I would have to say false. And finally, key number 13, challenger charisma. The challenging party candidate is not charismatic or a national hero. That one I'm counting as true. So let's just count the falses here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 false. If 6 are false, Trump loses according to this methodology, which has an excellent track record for accuracy. Now, something could change between now and November. The election is not over, or Lichtman could be wrong this time, or Trump could win the electoral vote and lose the popular vote, and according to this methodology still be elected. But if we're going by just the number of true and false, he's got to turn around 3 of those false. 3 of them have got to turn around, and looking at the ones that they are, short-term economy, long-term economy, charisma, well, maybe scandal, but I don't see it. I just don't see it. And my policy in this vlog is, I mean, full disclosure, I'm a conservative. I will not be happy if Trump loses. Personally, I will not be happy. But my policy in this vlog is to give it to you straight, to give you the facts as I see them, and that is how I see the facts as of today, June 1st, 2020. And I would just say I would like to see, well, I would like to see Trump win because I am a conservative, but I would also like to see a thumbs up if you like this video. Share with anybody you think would also like the video. If you've got any comments, you can put them in the comment section below the video. Questions, suggestions for future topics. I love getting more subscribers, so subscribe, and finally come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again, and until I do see you all again, bye.